Welcome to Dr. K's Lecturecast in Anatomy. Today we are going to cover an important dural venous sinus, the cavernous sinus. When cavernous sinus is read by studying the cranial cavity, the relations, extent, situation, draining channels and tributaries of cavernous sinus becomes much easier. So let's first see where is this cavernous sinus situated and its extent and relations. So first of all, cavernous sinus is situated in the middle cranial fossa. This is the anterior cranial fossa, this is middle and posterior. And this is the sphenoid bone, and cavernous sinus is located on either side of the body of the sphenoid bone in the middle cranial fossa. So we know about the situation. Now coming to the extent, let's say anterior to posterior extent. Anteriorly, the superior orbital fissure and posteriorly till the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone. This is the part I am mentioning. So, approximately apex of the petrous part of temporal bone. This is the extent. And what are the relations of cavernous sinus? So, just imagine this is the anterior, posterior, medial, lateral, something covering, something running over the cavernous sinus and something lying below the or inferior to the cavernous sinus. So what are the relations? Anteriorly, as like the extent, it's the same superior orbital fissure, and posteriorly apex of the petrous part of temporal bone. You know what gland is situated here medially? This is the pituitary gland, that is hypophysis cerebri. When I remove the pituitary gland and break the bone of the body of sphenoid bone, I can see sphenoidal air sinus. So the medial relations are hypophysis cerebri or the pituitary gland and the sphenoidal air sinus lying below to it. And laterally, just remember this is the temporal bone. So temporal lobe of the brain is related laterally to the cavernous sinus. Now superiorly, something is running, few structures are running over the cavernous sinus. So what are they? First is the internal carotid artery, and remember one nerve, because it's very easy. Here in the optic canal, there are two structures running. Internal carotid artery is going to continue as the ophthalmic artery, and there is an optic nerve which is running in the optic canal. So two structures run over the cavernous sinus in few region, that is the optic tract, optic chiasma and the internal carotid artery. And inferiorly, that means under the cavernous sinus, we can see a foramen here which is called as a foramen lacerum, and this is the greater wing of the sphenoid bone. So junction of the body and the greater wing of the sphenoid bone and foramen lacerum forms the inferior relation of the cavernous sinus. So as I explained with the diagram, the situation and relations of the cavernous sinus I have tabulated here, so that you can take a pause here and make a note of all the situation, extent and relations of cavernous sinus. Why this cavernous sinus is very important clinically? Because many structures lie within the lateral wall. See, cavernous sinus, all these dural venous sinuses are nothing but enclosed between the endosteal layer and meningeal layer of the dura mater. Okay, so it is not like a tube where you see all the veins as tubular structures. These venous sinuses are lined only by endothelium, which is the epithelium lining the blood vessels. So they are just sandwiched between the endosteal layer and meningeal layer. So within this wall of the cavernous sinus, we see many important nerves. So any injury affecting the cavernous sinus will affect these nerves, and the areas which are supplied by these nerves are also affected. So correlated clinically. Now what are all the structures lies within the lateral wall? The first one, remember, third, fourth, fifth and sixth cranial nerve. Okay, in that third cranial nerve, oculomotor, you can just, if you know, oculomotor passes through the superior orbital fissure. Trochlear nerve passes through the superior orbital fissure. And can you see here, this is the foramen rotundum, This is the foramen ovale and foramen spinosum. Remember these two foramen now. So oculomotor trochlea goes to the superior orbital fissure, and then the first division ophthalmic also takes the pathway of superior orbital fissure. And when you see maxillary nerve, ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular divisions are divisions of trigeminal nerve. So maxillary nerve passes through the foramen rotundum, and the mandibular nerve, this mandibular nerve is not within the structure, within the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, but lies laterally, inferiorly but laterally to the cavernous sinus, which passes through the foramen ovale. So the structures passing through the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus are, which lies within the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus are oculomotor, trochlea, ophthalmic and maxillary divisions of the trigeminal nerve. So this is very important. I was talking about sixth cranial nerve, which is the obducent. This obducent nerve along with the internal carotid artery lies medially to the cavernous sinus. And this is the tabulation for the structures in the lateral wall and medial wall of the cavernous sinus. Though I have explained by words with the diagram drawn, still it will be much easier to go through this tabular column once again to make a note of all the structures in the lateral wall and the medial wall. See, tributaries, all the veins have tributaries and all the arteries branches out. This point is the basic point when it comes to venous drainage and arterial supply. So now coming to cavernous sinus. It is also a venous sinus, so it will have tributaries which are coming and pouring their venous blood into the cavernous sinus. So we can relate three parts of the head and neck region which drains into the cavernous sinus. So this is the cavernous sinus and this is pterygoid plexus of veins. Now first the cavernous sinus drains some tributaries from the orbit, and there are tributaries coming from the brain because cavernous sinus is situated within the cranial cavity. And number 3, the meninges. See, cavernous sinus are dural venous sinuses which are situated between the endosteal and meningeal layers. So remember, tributaries also come and pour the venous blood into the cavernous sinus. So from the orbit, from the brain and from the meninges. Okay, so what are all the tributaries? See, imagine cavernous sinus is a big river like Ganges. So there will be so many tributaries which are coming and pouring into the big river. Remember like that. So from the orbit, we have two tributaries. Three tributaries. Superior ophthalmic vein, inferior ophthalmic vein, either a branch of it or it directly drains into the cavernous sinus, and central vein of retina. See, superior ophthalmic vein, central vein of retina and inferior ophthalmic vein. So these are from the orbit. Now coming to the brain. Remember again, superficial and inferior. Superficial middle cerebral vein, let's draw in the middle, and these are the inferior cerebral veins. So these two from the brain are tributaries to the cavernous sinus. From the meninges, sphenoparietal. Remember, cavernous sinus is very much related and located on either side of the body of sphenoid. So remember, sphenoparietal sinus and then middle meningeal vein. One name having the word meninges in it. So frontal trunk of the middle meningeal vein. Why I have drawn deep facial vein and pterygoid venous plexus is, this is the facial vein, and we know this is the dangerous area of the face, upper lip and the lower part of the nose. So any infection here, remember one thing, all these veins which are communicating with the cavernous sinus are valveless. So either from the cavernous sinus to these veins or from these veins to the cavernous sinus, through various communication, infection can pass through. Please remember this point. Okay, so here from the facial vein to the deep facial vein, if there is any infection, the communication is here to the pterygoid venous plexus, and pterygoid venous plexus has communication with the cavernous sinus. So that is why this area, when infected, is considered to be the dangerous area of the face, leading to cavernous sinus thrombosis. The tributaries of the cavernous sinus, again from the orbit, from the brain and from the meninges, are tabulated here. Draining channels is very easy to read for the cavernous sinus. See, you have to remember two words. Cavernous sinus has tributaries which pour their venous blood into the cavernous sinus. But from the cavernous sinus, the veins need to get drained to some other veins also. That is called as the draining channels or communications of the cavernous sinus. Remember, to and through. Cavernous sinus drains into a vein through another vein. Okay, so this is kind of a messenger. Remember like that. So let's first talk about cavernous sinus. This is superior petrosal sinus. Okay, and then this is inferior petrosal sinus. And cavernous sinus are interconnected by two intercavernous sinuses. Remember that. Let's first talk about the superior petrosal sinus. So this one is the transverse sinus. Okay, runs transversely in the transverse sulcus. So cavernous sinus drains into the transverse sinus through the superior petrosal sinus. This is the jugular foramen. So why it is called as jugular foramen? Internal jugular vein is going to commence from the exit of this jugular foramen, isn't it? So cavernous sinus into the internal jugular vein through the inferior petrosal sinus. Okay, this is the second communication. And then there are emissary veins which passes through foramen ovale, foramen lacerum, and there is one accessory foramen which is very rare, emissary sphenoidal foramen, which transmits emissary veins. So when you take the norma basalis exterior, we see pterygoid, that is lateral pterygoid has a rich pterygoid venous plexus lying over it. So those venous plexus also have a communication with the cavernous sinus through the emissary vein. So into the pterygoid venous plexus, through emissary veins passing through foramen ovale and emissary sphenoidal foramen and then foramen lacerum. This is number 3. One more communication of the cavernous sinus through the deep facial vein via the pterygoid venous plexus. That is also one communication of the cavernous sinus. One anterior and one posterior intercavernous between the two cavernous sinus. So the one side of the cavernous sinus communicates with the other side of the cavernous sinus through anterior and posterior intercavernous sinuses. And these are the draining channels or communications of the cavernous sinus. Please take a note of these two words, into the and through what, into which sinus or into which vein, through what communication. The structures are there which lies within the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, oculomotor, trochlear, and then ophthalmic division and the maxillary division. Oculomotor, trochlear and also abducent, they all supply the extraocular muscles. So those muscles are paralyzed. Okay, and there is severe pain in the area supplied by the ophthalmic and maxillary division, and all these orbital veins, the superior ophthalmic, inferior ophthalmic and the central vein of retina, which drains into the cavernous sinus, are also affected. That is why there is no proper drainage and edematous fluid is seen around the eyelids. That is one clinical aspect. Number 2 is, if there is any fracture or injury, cavernous sinus has dural venous blood, that is venous blood. Internal carotid artery has arterial blood. There is a mixing of these two blood. With each pulse of the internal carotid artery, the eyeball pulsates with each heartbeat. That is why exophthalma, exo means coming out, ophthalma means eyeball. That condition we call as the pulsating exophthalmas. If there is infection here, it can lead to cavernous sinus thrombosis by the communication of the deep facial vein and also by the facial vein with the superior ophthalmic vein. Through these veins, they communicate with the pterygoid venous plexus and leads to cavernous sinus thrombosis. And the clinical anatomy, the two clinical anatomy I had mentioned, the dangerous area of the face, which shows the following symptoms. If there is a cavernous sinus infection or thrombosis, what are the symptoms and why it causes such symptoms? I explained with the diagram. This is the explanation about the clinical anatomy on pulsating exophthalmos.